Hi guys, Samantha from Jessama Tutorials here, and today I'm going to show you how to create a bubble cane, and we're going to also create a project with it. So to start, you're going to need a cylinder of translucent polymer clay. I'm using translucent white Primo, but you can use any translucent clay you want. And I'd say that this is probably about 3 centimeters in diameter. And however tall you want it is completely up to you, depending on how much clay you want to use. Then you're going to need a sheet of white. Okay, I want to see if this is long enough. Okay, I'm going to roll this out to 1 millimeter thick. You're also going to need a sheet of black. Roll that out to 1 millimeter thick. And you're also going to need a sheet of translucent, the same sort of translucent in your middle. Roll that out to 1 millimeter thick. Okay. Now I'm just going to trim up this end here. Like so. And then I'm going to wrap my cylinder, like so. Press down by the seam, lift up again. Hopefully you can see that on the camera. Not sure if you can catch that, but hopefully there you can see. By tapping it against the edge there, it will have created a line that I can now see and use to trim so that it matches up exactly. Go. That's the white layer. Now I'll repeat the exact same thing with the black layer, and then I'll do the same thing with the translucent layer, and you do it in that order. So first white, then black, then translucent around your center translucent plug. Okay, and then you should end up with something that looks like this. Now the next step is to take another sheet of translucent, again 1 millimeter thick, and we're going to wrap that around the surface. And now you can skip this step by making the translucent sheet that you put on here twice the thickness of your black sheet or your white sheet. So whereas your black and white sheets should be about 1 millimeter thick, the translucent sheet should be about 2 millimeters thick. Okay. Then we're just going to start reducing this. We want quite a few. And I just like to reduce one end, and then I'll start reducing the other end. Like so. Just give it a good squeeze. And it kind of creates this wrapped candy shape, and that just means that I find that this means that we end up with less translucent, less waste on the ends. Then I will start reducing the middle. And just continue reducing until you've got it to about 1 centimeter in diameter. This piece should be 1 centimeter in diameter. However long that is depends on how much clay you used. I'd say the amount of clay that I used for the center is probably at least about 3/4 of a small block of translucent. Okay, then I'm just going to trim off the ends. And now this clay is fairly soft, so it's not going to give a clean cut, which is fine. But I just want to point that out. It's not because the clay is smushy, it's because the clay is very warm, and so it distorts quite easily. Once this has cooled, it will be much better. Okay, so now we're going to cut this into lengths. So first I just like to make sure these are about the same thickness as the rest. It doesn't have to all be perfectly the same thickness. Then I'll cut it to about 2 centimeter lengths. But the length is completely up to you, it really does not matter. Just keep in mind that you're going to be reducing this, so you want to have it long enough that you'll be able to handle reducing it without too much waste. If these are too short, it can be quite difficult to reduce it. However, if you make the pieces longer, you're going to end up with less pieces to work with overall. So it really is a personal preference. Just continue until you have chopped them all into this number of lengths. There we go, got lots of pieces. Now all we're going to do is we're just going to pop them together, and you want kind of a center one, and then start placing pieces around it, because we want to try and keep these round when we start reducing it. So you want to have a center piece, then wrap around those, and just continue until you've used up all of your pieces. There we go. And now I want to reduce this into a square, so I kind of started molding it, started shaping it into a square shape. So here's our center, and we basically went all the way out, and then with the last few I plugged them in so that it would come out looking somewhat square. And I feel I need another one there, so let me see if I can get that out of this little bit on the end. Sometimes if you're careful when reducing your end pieces, you can get out some spares. And because this is not a complicated cane, it's not like we're creating a landscape cane or a bird or anything complicated like that, a little bit of distortion is perfectly fine. Okay, now I'm just going to gently start moulding that into a square, and we're going to start reducing. So just butt these edges up before we actually start trying to get it longer. All we're doing is trying to get it into the right shape right now. And now they're not going to stay perfectly round, but we just don't want them to go into super sharp shapes. And so I think we've achieved that. Okay, so now while keeping it in a square shape, just start pulling on these edges. And now I don't want to reduce it too much, because I don't want these little balls to be too small. So I might reduce it down to about 2/3 of its size here. And I'll just use the roller to do it. It's very easy. Once you have it in a rough square shape, you can just use your roller to roll along each of these sides, and it will begin reducing it down. You can already see it's gone quite a bit. And then once you've finished reducing it, I'd recommend letting it rest for roughly at least half an hour. The best is about an hour, just so that the clay can cool down. It can stop being so soft, so that when we cut it, it won't distort. So make sure to just give it enough time to rest. And that's probably where I'm going to leave it. I don't want to reduce it much more than that. I will quickly give it a slice just to trim off this end bit. You can see it's giving a clear enough image to give you an idea of what we're going to get, but it is still quite soft. But I do want to trim it because you can see we have some distortion there. So I just want to trim it until we get rid of that distortion, like so. Alright, so now you can even put this into the freezer to set, but basically you need to leave that for at least half an hour before we can actually start using it. So in the meantime, while that is resting, we can begin working on our project. So the cane will rest, we're going to work on our extra bits. So you're going to need a piece of black that's been rolled out to about 1mm thick. Place it on 2 pieces of printing paper, in between 2 pieces of printing paper, and just give it a quick burnish. And this is just going to smooth it out, make it all nice. And I'll pick it up off the back as well. You can see it gives it a nice even finish. Okay, now we're going to be working with some foils. So I'm just going to bring over some of them. I'm using these beautiful, I think I've called them confetti foils on my Etsy shop, but you can see they're really beautiful. They've got this cool effect effect to them. You can use any metal leaf or foil you want, but I really wanted to use these ones because I thought they were quite colourful and pretty. I want to use this beautiful turquoise one that we have. And I'm just going to place that down, and I always want to make sure I have a little lip sitting off to the edge. And then I'll just gently press that down, make sure there are no air bubbles. Then grab another piece of paper and just begin rubbing across the surface of paper over where the foil is. And now sometimes these foils can take a little bit of work. The more you do this, the hotter they get, and the heat is actually what causes them to bind to the clay. If you're having a bit too much friction, you can always just tear the paper, wrap it around your finger, and you can go even faster like that. And that will just warm up the foil, it will burnish it onto the clay, and that is what's going to get it. Now, these foils have been pretty nice to me recently, so I don't think I need to burnish it too much, but if it's giving you trouble, the more you burnish the better. Also, another trick for you, if it's giving you a lot of trouble, is you can use a heat gun on a low setting, or even a hairdryer, just to gently warm it up after you've burnished it, and that can help. Right, now lifting it up is quite important. You want to grab the side here, and you want to rip. I'm sorry I jogged you there. I have to go very fast when I do that. You can see this bit didn't come off, but let me just show that now that I actually have it off. When you have it on the piece, like so, you want to grab your lip, and then when you're ripping it, you do not rip up like so. That's going to cause a bit of trouble. It makes it quite difficult for the foil to come off. What you want to do is you want to rip it so that it's sliding along the surface of the clay, like so. Okay, and that is going to be the easiest way to get it to come off of the clay. And now, if everything doesn't come off, the best thing to do would be, I'm not going to do this because this seems to be sticking. The best thing to do is to lay it back down, but then you come at it from a different angle. You don't go from the same place again, and you rip again very close to the piece. You rip it very fast, close to the piece from a different angle, and that seems to help as well. Okay, so here we are, very pretty, quite happy with how that looks. I'm going to trim away any excess black I have, and this is going to have to wait until that cane is ready to use. So I want to take it off the paper because I don't want it to leach. There we go. And now keep in mind you can use any foil, any metal leaf you have, it will work just fine. There you can see how beautiful that is on there. It's going to look really great once we put our bubble cane over the top, because the translucent will show through the base. But while we're waiting, I don't want this to leach, so take it off your paper and just leave it on your tile, and we can apply our bubble cane to it in a little while. Okay, so our cane is out of the freezer and has been resting for roughly an hour now. So now I'm going to start taking some thin slices. So you're going to use a thin flexible blade that is sharp. You're going to try and get these slices as thin as you can. So you might not be able to see perfectly what I'm doing, but when you're slicing, this is the right way to slice. You slice so that the cane is facing towards you. That way you are able to see what you are doing, and it is much easier to get even slices. Okay. So I just want to show you how thin that one is. Of course, you can even see the colour underneath it that you can see. So you really want to get it as thin as possible. And then once you've got a bunch of slices, bring over the piece that we have here, and a piece of plain printing paper. And we're just going to start laying our bubble cane over the surface. And once this bakes, you'll be able to see it much better. For the moment, it's not going to be very visible, the pattern. And a little bit of overlap is fine. and just continue. And if you have a slice that doesn't really seem like it's thin enough, what you can do is you can pop it down onto your tile, make sure it's stuck down well. And I'm just going to start taking slices from the surface, and this will thin it out. Don't go overboard, because you can thin it out too much, so much so that you come through the other end of the slice, but this is a great way to thin it out. And you don't waste a lot of clay, and you now have a thin enough slice that you can use. Okay, and there we go. Now grab another piece of printing paper and burnish it flat. And this is going to even out our slices so that they have a nice even surface. And do this nice and thoroughly. You want it to be nice and even. You can use a roller after you've used your fingers a bit, but the key with using the roller is to not roll back and forth. You want to rub back and forth. Okay, and then when we're done with that, take a stiff blade, it's important that it's stiff, and lift this off your piece of clay. Off your piece of paper, I mean. Then lay it face down, and I'm just going to texture our back. And I'm just using a piece of sponge here. You can use sandpaper, that works really well as well. Just make sure that you texture the whole back thoroughly. Should not be any shiny spots. Okay, there we go, that works fine. Now what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be cutting from the back side. That way we don't flatten our texture. And I'm going to be using these cute little pebble cutters, and they come in an earring set so that they are reverse of each other. Just going to position that down. So, and then press firmly on it, and it should cut straight through. And if it sticks in the cutter, that's fine, because it is on a piece of paper, so it should be non-stick. Okay. Now this is going to look a lot better once it is baked. So I'll just lift this up. This is scrap. Pop that into my scrap piece, and we can do a scrap video on that sometime. Now I just want you to use your finger to gently brush around these edges, just to get rid of any fuzz that might be around the edge. And then lay them back down onto the paper with your pattern side facing up. And then you're going to bake these for a full hour at Polymer's recommended temperature, because translucent burns a little bit more easily than other clays. I would also recommend putting a piece of plain printing paper over the top of this, and that tends to help prevent scorching quite a bit. And then when that's done, I'll show you how to finish them off. Okay, and I think I'll just show you what to do with the scrap now. So what I'm just going to do is I'm just going to chop it into sections, like strips. We're just kind of going to stick those back together. They don't have to sit in any particular way, we just want them to kind of fit back together. Like so. Then you can kind of squish and prod them into the right shape. I'm just going to pick that up, and then on a piece of plain printing paper, just going to burnish that so that it flattens it out. time I will roll a bit with my roller. We're going for a very organic effect here. Just want to smooth out any areas. Now if you have little bits of shavings left over, you can put those on as well to cover up the leaf that is exposed. And there's a little bit of a bit of black there that's exposed that I don't really want it to be completely exposed like that. There we go. There we go, so that's all of our scraps. And I'll just use the roller to make sure that that's completely smoothed out. Okay. Good. Now I'm going to bring over some smaller cutters, and I've got some more pebble earring cutters here. Just going to lift this up. Pretty easy to do that. Flip it, and what we'll do on the back is we'll just give that a good texture as well. There we go. And then we'll cut. Like so. And you could cut out more from this as well, but I'm just going to stick with those two. Now just gently lift them up off of this. Actually, I'll use my blade to do that, that will be a better idea. Then I'll gently smooth these edges. You can have a bit of fuzz on them from the cutter. That's pretty normal. Okay. And I'll do the same with the other one, and then we're going to put them into the oven with the others. Okay, so they're out of the oven, and hopefully you can see the metal leaf reflecting under there. It's quite hard to see at the moment because we haven't sanded them and we haven't given them any resin finish at the moment. This one you can see, because the translucent is not quite as thin, you can't see the metal leaf as well. This one, some areas you can see it quite well, other areas not so well. So now we're going to give them a sand. Now when you're sanding this, you want to be careful because you don't want to break through to the metal leaf. So start with a 400 wet dry sandpaper. I'm actually going to do this one. And just start sanding, like so. And you'll sand by a sink, and you'll continue doing that, and you'll go from a 400 all the way up to a 1200, and then after that we will apply our resin. Okay, finish sanding them so that they now have a nice smooth clean surface. And so we're going to bring over a resin mat, place these down and space them so that they are well apart. And I'm going to be using the Super Velcro's Magic Gloss today, but any UV resin will work. You can even use a two-part resin such as ice resin if you have any. But just keep in mind that's going to take about 24 hours to cure. Okay, I'll just drizzle a bit onto the surface and then move it around. And there you can see that metal leaf much better now. But still, it's not going to be a huge main focus of the piece. You're not going to be able to see a huge amount of it through the translucent because the translucent is in bubbles. So you're just going to see like little windows of it here and there. Okay, then you're going to repeat with the others. Now because Magic Gloss has quite a high, it likes to dome a lot, you might find that the resin starts to drag away from the edge of your piece. So what I like to do is I like to go and finish off my other pieces, and then I will come back and have a look. Like this one, I can see it's coming over from the edge just a little bit there, and I like to add a touch more resin not too much, don't go overboard. Drag it back to the edge that it was pulling away from. Repeat with the others, and basically I'll spend like maybe 5 minutes doing that, just making sure that I've got a nice even cover, and then I'll put in the UV light for half an hour. Okay, so they've been in for roughly half an hour, and I'll just bring them out for you to see. This one, where we had the translucent at its thinnest, you can actually see the shimmer of that leaf, but that's very thin translucent. This one is probably something that is going to be more along the lines that you'll be actually getting. You can still see the metal leaf under there, it still has a slight sheen to it, but it doesn't actually impact the piece a huge amount. So you can use any metal leaf you want. If you happen to have blue metal leaf, it will work just as well. You can see they look really nice. And these leftover pieces, although they look quite different, you can see a metal leaf quite well in them. You can see here, because they were flattened quite a bit. They're a bit more distorted, but they come across as a lot more funky, I guess. So anyway, now we're going to drill them, and we're going to start assembling our earrings. So I've got a push drill here, and I'm just going to find the top point, press down, give a little twist. I like to do it by hand first, and then I'll start drilling. Like so. And there we go, really easy. Repeat with the others. Okay. Then I'm just going to bring over 4 jump rings. And you'll open them like so. And that should fit through your piece like so. Very easy. And just close that up and repeat with the others. Okay, and after that, grab a jump ring, a smaller one preferably, and link that up to your jump ring and pendant and earring piece, and then to your ear wire, like so. And you should end up with an earring like that. And repeat with all the others. Okay, and there we are, all finished. So you can see it's really simple. It's an easy beginner's project, just about anyone can do that. You can use any backing you want. You can really use any backing you want. You can use mica shifts, mukumegane, any colour metal leaf you want. You can use mica powder, pastels, just a plain layer of clay. You can use Skinner blends. So really, it's completely limitless once you put the bubble cane on top. Just keep in mind that the bubble cane is going to obscure the pattern underneath a fair bit, so don't go and make something super complicated, like some sort of complicated surface effect, or even mukumegane might end up being a little bit too crowded for it. You really want a plain slab of colour, or 1 or 2 colours gently blending into each other. That's generally what I find works the best. But it really is completely up to you, so completely have fun, play around with it. It really is limitless. Also keep in mind with the bubble cane, you do not have to do black and white rings. You could use just white, or you could use just black. It's completely up to you. You can also use different colours as well. Maybe you could try blue, red, completely up to you again. So have fun, play around with it. If you have questions, let me know in the comments below, and I'll try to get back to you as quickly as possible. And if you would like to support this channel so that I can continue posting videos like this every single week, please do consider becoming a patron, as that really helps this channel quite a bit. You also get special coupon codes for my Etsy shop, up to 20% actually. And you also get exclusive videos that are for patrons only, or you can purchase them on Etsy, but you get a lot more tutorials for your money by signing up on Patreon, because you get all of the backlog for whichever level you sign up on. So you can get up to like 250 tutorials by just signing up on the $15 level now. But anyway, that's completely up to you, but just keep in mind it really does help support this channel, and I would greatly appreciate it. And so that's basically it, and as always, I will see you in the next tutorial. Bye for now.